watching Tone RBAs.
Up first, we have the Vision Umbrella Mod, Umbrella Mods Vision. Now, I'm putting this in a category of budget friendly. So basically, RBAs that are around that $100 mark or under. This is on the higher end of that category. And it vapes good. I'm mostly putting it in the listing for its unique draw system. You actually pull air through the top and you cut out any chance of condensation. So that's kind of why I'm like even mentioning this. I felt the build deck was a little too small and the juice ports were a little too small. But you know, it's a Chinese offshoot, you know, it's an offshoot of BP mods. So thought I would give that a little shout. Here's the Aspire and Atmizoo Qbix. This I think was like $40 and one of the first, if not the first, Chinese, mainstream Chinese branded RBA for billet boxes. So that is a good mention for cheaper ones. Maybe a slightly higher priced, but pretty much around the same price mark. This is the BP Mods Pioneer Insider, not to be confused with the Steam Tuners Insider, completely different. Getting a lot of glare here. So this thing was like $60, $70 maybe. Very unique, very inventive, very affordable, good entry. You could actually use it within the tank or separately in a standard Boro or Pro. So thought that would be worth a mention. Then we have the Voltrove. This is around that $100 mark, maybe a little bit more. Draws air in just through the bottom, not even through a pin, through, you know, the opening in the bottom. So this has a nice build deck. It's kind of similar wicking system and deck to a Vapesnail, and I'm a big Vapesnail fan. It might be the first postless design too for a Boro Bridg'd RBA. This is on the higher tier of this subcategory of affordable RBAs, but the Ground Kloud Innovations Heir V2 has a 4mm pin. It wicks good, tastes good. It would be in a different category if it didn't have a spinning top cat. So if you put this in wrong and it spins, you're going to be closing off your juice flow ports. So keep that in mind. And lastly, this guy, the Cthulhu 520. Really like this. It's also a cheap number. So the Heir V2, that was like a $120, $100 tank, whereas this may have been like $50 or $60 at most. So this is similar to the Pioneer Insider in that you can use it with the tank or without the tank. It opens up to it has a 4mm airflow pin, but you can also take the pin out completely and it'll be a 4.5, making it one of the widest, if not the widest, direct airflow pin for an RBA. Also has a pretty sizable build deck for people that like big coils. Wicks good, tastes good, a lot of airflow, a lot of power. Great buy for the money. It's probably my #1 rated for a budget-friendly tank. My mistake, everyone. I almost left this out. Now, I'm going to say that 520 would be in the sub $100 RRP best. For $100 or more, but below 150, I would say this. I was going to put this in my other ranking, but I'm going to put it in the budget-friendly one, as I got this used for $75, kind of when it was first came out. Now, this is the Psych by Susco. Now, this is what it's based after, the Kirch. So, sorry about the focus. So this Susco version, or I'm sorry, this Psych here is in partnership with Cyclone Mods that are known for the Hadley, the Citadel, the Entheon, the Squevo Squonk mod. He kind of opened shop back up to collaborate with what's his name, Dylan, and make this. And even though they look surprisingly similar, I find that this Psych is much better for some reason than the Kirch that I have here. Now, these are both pretty much in budget, but since this is newer and it got a lot of attention, this is probably a little more. But at this point, they're probably both one of your most affordable options. And for an in-Boro RBA, this may be the best tasting, you know, in my opinion, best flavor for your buck for an RBA. And also, this is you can potentially do dual coils in it too, which is different. I've ran round wire in this, and with success. I don't know if, you know, it's a bit of a novelty, but it works, and it works pretty good. So, yeah, the Psych. Didn't want to forget it. Here are 4 that I will give a mention for one reason or another. In order from left to right, further I go right, the closer they were to making this list. So on the left here we have the Jenna, which I like for its aesthetics, its looks, and its draw. I really like its draw and flavor. However, it's a motherfucker to wick and get it right. I attribute that to a number of things. There's not enough room for the cotton in any capacity. The wicking channel is not big enough, and it doesn't have enough space for it to lay between the coil and the end of this port, the edge of this port, I'll say. It's also the fitment, you know, it's in there kind of loose. Wish it was, the tolerances were a little different. But yeah, I mean, the cotton from the coil to the edge, there's not much space in there for your cotton. So that's a bummer, because I do really like the airflow, the draw, and flavor on it. So then we have the Nest. This is from Michael Meller. This is like a Harpy project. This is very unique. I mean, the aesthetics of it, you know, with it, the way where it's positioned, where the actual deck is positioned, you know, it being a nest up above, you know, I like the concept behind this. It's a little bit like an RDTA system. It has side airflow. It has good tolerances. Yeah, so the airflow technically comes from the side. Like a It goes up and then to the sides. So kind of like a hammer would be. So, you know, with RDTA, RBTA styles, you do have to worry about capacity just a little bit. So, and it's a tighter draw, so it's good for RDL, MTL. Here we have the Eden. I love the Eden aesthetic, similar to the Jenna. It's just these wicking ports. They're too little. Now, there is a tactic for it. And it can do tight MTL to 4mm airflow, so it can be airy, but the original cap it came with, you know, was not built to last. The stainless steel works, but it took away from the aesthetic. Anyhow, these wicking ports, they were interesting, but I don't think they're the best kind of wicking port. This definitely could be on my list, on my top 10 list. The Atom. I love the Atom. I actually like the original version like this better than the Hazard or the Mark II, because it's slightly smaller build deck, even though it's still a pretty big build deck. Just wicks really good, great flavor, opens up a lot of airflow for it, you know, 4mm. So yeah, really like the Atom a lot. So this could be on my top 10 any day. Here we have the Orbit. Now, I was kind of struggling whether I wanted to put this at number 10, but I had to take a lot of things into consideration. So it's an all-in-one kind of tank. It had a lot of hype for it, and it was really successful, and it is really good. Mine's been neglected as of recently for whatever reason, but I mean, it has a lot of really nice qualities to it. The airflow is amazing. So you got there's these two in the front, this one on the side. I mean, it's really nice the way it came together. Now I know it's technically made in China, but I mean, it's well made. I will say that. I mean, you got the engraving here, however they did it lasered in in the tank. The white fill plug, that wasn't probably a good move because, you know, it kind of deteriorates over time, just gets discoloration or whatever. But just with those 3 little holes there, this thing actually wicks pretty good. It keeps up with wicking. The fill plug is actually easy to deal with too. The build deck is pretty tight though. You know, your cotton doesn't have much room to go. It's kind of similar to that Jenna, the way that is too. So it's a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to wick this. You don't want the cotton hanging any further below those holes. But once you get the wicking down, the concept of it, it's pretty easy. You shouldn't have any problem once you finally get it. It would be nice if you could get to the post from any side. And what else? The MTL attachment, I found that really wasn't worth a damn. The MTL attachment was crap. I mean, you had to pay extra for it. It was like $15 extra, and it just didn't work. I tried it. The bottom is amazing. It's a flathead screw, and you can tighten it all the way down to a super tight MTL. It's like this cone system. See that blue part? Or you can open it all the way up, and it'll go to like a 4.5 airflow. Although, because of that cone, it's very diffused, so it doesn't feel as airy. It's a very smooth 4.5, but yeah, really good RBA right here. In that, like, I think it was like 180 when it came out, maybe even 200. So it was up there. This lovely thing right here is the blue titanium Haku Xeta. Zeta, whatever. From the Australian company Haku. This was my first authentic bridge ever. Got it from a guy named Ilya, and I fell in love with it. I mean, it's just so nice. It's so light. I never had a titanium anything really, so I was just really blown away by how good the flavor was. This is one of the really early RBAs, when RBAs really kicked off. So the tolerances are amazing. I mean, this O-ring, this is how all RBAs should place together. It's just got that one O-ring and it just really like pops in there perfectly. Hear that snap? Hear that click? It's fucking amazing. It came with all sorts of different airflow options, these little discs you can put in there, which was pretty incredible. Now those screws on the side, I never really bothered with them, but you could even change the size of your wicking hole through that technically. So, yeah, the discs were a great thing. The only problem I had with it initially was that the wicking port was up really high. You know, it was way up there. So when you got low in your juice, I learned that you should face the wicking port to the glass, and the glass will actually act like a stainless steel cable would for an RDTA and give you that capillary action or whatever the hell it is, and it works that way. So it's got a really wide chamber chimney too, and it has reducers for that as well. This was a really well thought out RBA. It's a throwback at this point, and it's still one of the best. I still find that a lot of the best RBAs are actually some of the first ones that came out, and this is no different. I really think the hazel one looks really cool. It's like a yellow color, brownish yellow. But yeah, the Xeta is fucking awesome. And I really wish Haku was still around making things like this. Here's the Kilic Custom Killab. I really like this. It has a similar wicking system and deck. It kind of reminds me of like a Bridg'd. If you look at where the wicking port is, it's very similar. I mean, it's about the same size cutout. It's in the same spot of the deck. This one has a great aesthetic, you know, with the beauty rings and all. It's just like their Air Lab was. You know, has that same look that the Air Lab brought to RDAs. Opens up to 4mm, I believe. Pretty sure. It may be 3.5. I'm not even positive, but I know it's a very airy vape though. However, whatever it is, it's pretty airy. Geez, I can't even remember if it came with all the pins or if I bought them separate. I think it came with the pins. I'm not sure. It wasn't actually that expensive. For how nice it is anyway. It's very nicely polished and everything. It's very shiny. Made in Malaysia, so maybe that is why the price wasn't too crazy. Yeah, I just love their look and everything. The owl, yeah. They're, you know, it's threaded on chimney, which is always good. Reverse threaded. The base nut, that thing's a little finicky and kind of a pain in the ass, but it is a nice touch because then you don't have to worry about the different boros. You know, it's a little more interchangeable that way. So that was kind of a good move, but yeah. So put this one here at, what's this, number 8? We have our Atmizoo Vapesnail. This is the gold rendition. Now, Atmizoo, this is a throwback as well. Atmizoo got into the billet box game pretty early on. I wish I knew which came out first, the snail or the shell. I think the shell came out first. Don't quote me though, but I find this to be significantly better than the shell. So the wicking, like I said earlier, the wicking style is a little more similar to the Voltrove, so it takes a little bit more cotton than you would think. I ended up making it leak a lot when I first got it, but once you get the wicking down of this, it's just slightly different, you know what I mean? Once you get the wicking down though, it's great. And it has that same kind of wicking style, except for it being a deep juice well that needs more cotton. It's the same idea wicking of like how we just had the Voltrove and or I'm sorry, the Killab and all the Voltrove and the Bridg'd. They all kind of have that same kind of wicking style going on, the way their channels are. So yeah, this can do a lot too. I mean, the pins that it comes with everything you need, you know what I mean? A nice range of pins, and those airflow pins, you can do MTL, RDL, DL, and perfectly transition between all of them. You know, it's got a great size, build deck to use, everything about it's great in my opinion. I think they also had different chimneys available for it. So, you know, Atmizoo, they do a great job in general. So, but yeah, they were a pioneer of the early billet box, Boro, RBA, whatever. This and the Zeta for the old stuff, and the original Bridg'd, I'd say those three were like the best. And the Mobb, you know, for when this stuff first kicked into high gear. The Psycho Mod's hammer right here. That's what this is, number 6. This came out like at the height of, you know, the real climactic point for this kind of stuff, Boro mods. This RBA was huge when it came out. This came out like a little after the Dope, and I'd say the Dope, this, and the Unknown, you know, once Boro mods became pretty popular, these three probably made the biggest impact in terms of popularity and just very sought after. I believe the original, when they first came out, there was only 200 of these made at first, so very rare and sought out, and you know, it's the same people that do the KBR, so you know, their stuff is very popular. So this look, now it's like got that rectangular shape, kind of like a Bridg'd, but look at the wicking. The wicking is more like one of your cylindrical looking type RBAs, like a you know, exo set or something, or a Mobb. The way where that wicking port sits, right in the middle there. That is cool. And this vape's great. It was side airflow only, which was very different. I mean, and the tolerances are amazing on it. The finishing is amazing. Quality of metal is amazing. It is one of the best. This could be a top 5, a top anything for me. That's why, I mean, these last 6 here are really hard to rate because I use them all the time. I mean, I always have this in my Ion, which is probably my favorite mod. So that says a lot about the hammer. Even though I'm putting it at 6th place, it's just because of, there's a lot of factors that go into all this. It doesn't have the best juice capacity because of how big it is. It definitely flies through juice. It doesn't have the most versatile airflow, you know, but the flavor's great, the wicking's great, and You do got to know how to wick it right. You don't need that much cotton for this. But yeah, the hammer. Love it. Okay, so next up, top 5. This is going to be sinful for some people because I know this is the all-time favorite for many people out there. And I'm just putting all of them in one category. There's many versions of this. There's the V1, the V2, the V 1.2, 1.2 Plus, Finale, the V2, the Omega, the, I don't know, Blue Omega. There's a shit ton of bridged RBAs out there. Now the link, that doesn't count, something completely different from Wick'd, but yeah, the Wick'd Bridg'd is amazing. This was my most sought out RBA ever. When I got this directly after I got the Xeta, and this was before I was comfortable spending a lot of money on things like this, and it was a big deal for me, and I was very happy that I did it. This one here in the middle is the 1.2 Plus, and that's technically, it's probably my favorite one. The quality of metal in the older ones I feel was better. It just didn't feel like a cheap metal whatsoever. The overall design of them pretty much stayed the same except for minor differences. Especially early on, it was mostly about the chimney being different. With the 1.2, it was a screw-on chimney, whereas the V1, it's all one piece. I would advise not getting the V1 unless you want to collect them. See how it's just one piece? So, in the V1.2, you also had a slightly bigger deck, thicker posts, things like that, little modifications. You had to screw on the 510. This is one of the, I think the first RBA where you could change out the airflow pin without screwing up the build deck. So this only opened up to 3.5, I believe, whereas this is the V2, and the V2 is the one where it had all different pandas on the back, you know, from different countries, different looks, heavy metal pandas, shit like that. But the threading, this one was actually not threaded. It was just an O-ring, which can pull out, so that wasn't a good thing. The metal does feel cheaper. I believe it's made in China. This was different. The 510 adapter was different. But yeah, the main thing was that it could open up to 4mm airflow. That was the big appeal of it. And you know, the build deck, I think, again, was opened up a little bit more and things like that. You know, the shape of the top is different. It's got more crease going on. I guess the Omega has the best aesthetic overall, objectively, but I don't know. I think the 1.2 to the Finale, that era is the best. So yeah, this is the 1.2 Plus that I'm technically putting in this here at number 5, because yeah, fucking thing is beautiful. But yeah, I mean, it's just easy to wick and amazing flavor, and despite the rectangular shape, juice capacity was never something I worried about too much because there's small wicking holes. So even though it kept up with the wicking fast and was flavorful, it didn't kill your juice because it wasn't a giant port. So things like that, you have to factor in all that stuff, really. So yeah, they were so rare for so long, you had to spend $250 to $300 just to get one because there wasn't that big of an abundance of this stuff. And honestly, it was a little more fun back then because of it. It was a little more of a hunt. So the same guy, Ilya, he hooked me up with this through a friend. So I think this 1.2 Plus originally belonged to a guy named Eric Robin or something. But yeah, I love this RBA, and you know, there's BMM collabs of it. And it's just a landmark RBA, probably more than any other, for billet boxes and Boro mods. Did somebody say landmark? Yeah, so here we are, number 4, which, God, this could be number 1 to me as well. This could definitely be number 3. This is the Mobb Mini and Mobb V2. So the Mobb Mini is the main one that really took the community, you know, and really won everybody over. I mean, there's been crazy number of iterations of this too, probably more than any other RBA at this point. So I'm putting them in the same category, the Mobb Mini, the Mobb V2, whatever. But yeah, so on the right is the Mobb V2 titanium. On the left is the Mobb Mini titanium silver, so, or raw, whatever. Now, this RBA, I think, so on the left it opens up to 3.5, on the right it opens up to 4, and it has the DL version. There's 2 versions, RDL and DL. I have the DL V2, so it's got really big wicking ports, and I don't really think it needed that. I do like the bigger post screws. You know, you don't have to worry about having such a tiny post screws, grub screws that you can wreck. But the build deck being a little bigger and the giant wicking ports, I think, was unnecessary, because of all the things about the Mobb Mini that I like, or Mobbs that I like, it's the Mobb Mini wicking port. The wicking port on the Mobb Mini is fucking amazing. I probably have more Mobbs than anything still. So that's my first one. That's the Delra one. They're all pretty much, you know, got the same thing going on, but they just wick so efficiently. They just wick so fast, and they're like, even though it's 3.5, it still seems airier than some 4s, because it's like a direct shot of air without it being turbulent still. It's very direct airflow, and yeah, it's just reliable. It can do MTL and stuff. You know, the crown is, you know, is an aesthetic thing, but it's a small cylindrical RBA, so it'd be kind of boring otherwise. So the crown, I think it stood out for the right reasons. It still maintains good juice capacity. But yeah, the wicking is the real claim to fame, I think. And, you know, good marketing and aesthetics, and it's just got a lot going for it. It always did. So this is a lot of people's number 1 as well. This and the Bridg'd, probably. You know, people have really just used throughout the years, and Yasik really, you know, Monarchy did a great thing with the Mobb. I actually like the original Mobb actually has Phillips head screws. I don't know, there's only like 150 of them or something. I think they're all gold. But yeah, really love Mobbs in general. So that's the Mobb. The Armor Mods AMBB. Now, like I was just talking about the Mobb having great wicking ports. The best wicking ports, the most efficient. I can always get it to wick right and wick fast, and yeah. So the AMBB, I put this where it is here at number 3 because it's like that sleeper RBA. You know, everyone knows the Mobb and loves the Mobb. I wanted to give this little like underdog RBA here some recognition. I already did a review on it before, but I feel like that the Protocol Atom, which is what you see there in the middle, or in the 38, the Atom, the AMBB, and the Kloud, the original Kloud RBA, they all came out kind of around the same time, and they all had that like square look, and they all have pretty similar wicking too, especially these two, because it comes from the bottom like a vape shell would. Whereas the Kloud is like a little of both. It's a little more like a bridge style and like this style from below. So it's like the side and below. But I find these two to be way better than the Kloud. That may just be me. The Kloud, the build deck is kind of big. You know, I don't use giant coils, so I don't really need all that. And mine just didn't have the best tolerances, and you know, I know they got better along the way. I love the Kloud V2 RTA. I didn't like the Kloud nearly as much as I like this. So the AMBB always wicks super fast for me. Juicy as hell, super saturated vape, extremely flavorful. I just really like this RBA. And it's not even that expensive, especially now. Like, to get a used one, you could probably get one for like $50. I mean, it's a super underrated RBA in my opinion. You know, Mobbs and stuff, like most of the things on this list, when they came out, they were like $150 to $200. This thing, I think it might have been like $120 or $130 new. So like, it comes with all the pins. It comes with as low as like, I don't know, 1 maybe, or I don't really vape below 1.5 millimeter, but it goes from that all the way to 4 millimeters. So you get a 4 millimeter airflow. It's another similarity about the Atom, the Kloud, and this. They all open up to 4 millimeter. So this one just works for me. It just always works for me really good. And the pairing of it with the bunker tank, the Armor Mods Boro, just works. You know, great fitment. It doesn't have an O-ring or anything to seal in the deck to the top cap, but because of the length of the top cap, it sheaths around it well enough that it's not just going to pop out. You know, the tolerances are there enough that it really didn't need the O-ring. It's not as perfect as like the Dope with the tolerances, but yeah, they nailed the dimensions good. And yeah, love the AMBB. Really not much I would change about it, except, you know, if it could somehow be used without an adapter, without a 510 adapter or something. Maybe slightly bigger, actually, it's a pain in the ass to build, I will say that, but I rock the same coil for a good while. But I will say the build deck isn't the most inviting, but once you got a coil in there, it's good. It doesn't need a lot of cotton, and it just wicks super efficiently, and it's very saturated flavor. This is the end. Huh? What's your pick? What do you think I'm picking? I'll tell you what I'm picking. So, basically, I'm going to cop out and say both of these are #1 to me. They are. It's a tight draw. And I will give you my personal numbering. So the Unknown on the left there, that's going to be my #2. The Dope is going to be my #1. So, I know the Unknown has the most hype of any RBA ever released. More, you know, surpassing what the Dope, how the Dope was received even. So, they both have great flavor. It really comes down to your vaping style. If you like direct lung, go with the Unknown. If you like restricted direct lung or mouth to lung, go with the Dope. And I actually do really like direct lung, but I like small coils, and I like the juice capacity that you get with the Dope. Now, what would make this even harder is the new Unknown RBA coming out, the Midge, or Midge. The Midge is just like the Unknown, except it's shorter, so you get more juice capacity, which is pretty much the only con I have with the Unknown. Both of these RBAs wick incredibly well. They're both incredibly flavorful. They're both constructed great because you have a chimney that you screw on. They both have, you don't need an adapter for either one of them. The machining, the metal, the tolerances, the dimensions, all that stuff is perfect on these. They are the best RBAs for their class. On the left would be the direct long, on the right would be the RDL, the restricted direct long. Because of my just personal preference, I like the Dope more. The Vapeware Mods Dope wins the RBA, you know, championship. Whatever the hell this was. This mess of video. So yeah, that's everything. That's the end. So in the comments, maybe tell me what your favorite is, or maybe your top 3, something like that. Or out of these two, what do you like better? You know, give me something to work with. I know I can't be the only one. I know everybody loves the Unknown, but something about the Dope, it's not even just the size of it that makes it have better juice capacity. It has smaller ports. So, yeah, it still feeds really fast and wicks really fast. It just doesn't consume as much juice. I think even with the midge being smaller, it still has these big wicking ports. And I think they may even be a little bigger. So it's still probably going to run through liquid really fast. So I don't know how the Dope achieves such flavor, such saturation with such small ports, but it does. And I like smaller coils, so it works for me. I don't even think it opens up to 3.5. So they're both around the same price. Unknown's US made, and the Dope is made in Greece. So that is the whole shebang here. Thank you guys for sticking it out and watching the whole thing, and I appreciate yous, and stay tuned for more. Finally getting around to doing something I said I was going to do a while ago. RBAs. Bridges. Boro Bridges. There's a lot of them. When I started vaping build box systems, there was maybe like 10. And then real quick it shot up to like 20, 30, 50. And who knows how many there are now. Just to like rattle off a good chunk of them, that, you know, I guess I'll let you know if I've used it or not too. So the Reload Ammo, never used it. The 326 by Angry Fox, never used it. The T to X, never used it. The Spade Black Rose, I've had that. The Monster, the Diver, the Pont, the Mecha Beeper, the Vega, the Aeolus from Gus Mods, Bishop by Ambition, the Satellite Stellar, the Atmo Nix, I do have that, the 415, the Neo, the T-Bridge by Turo, the Rubik, the Voodoo Chucky, I've had that. Vanny Big Vessel, have that. Ambitions Mullen, have that. The BOI, I'm sorry. The BO1 by Skunkworks, the Kirch, I've had that. The Kyo, had that. Krma, had that. Heir, had that. The Omega, I've had bridged. The Linked, I've used that. The Exoset V2, I've used that one. The Vape Shell, I have that. The Truss, the Boxer 1 and 2, the Evil Alien, I have that. The Flow V2, Crossbow SVT, I have that. The Atemporal, Dan Vape, Doggy, Insider V2, have that somewhere. Stubby, I forget the name of that, RDTA. Vessel V2. Jesus, there's a lot, man. You know, I have the rest written down somewhere else. Regardless, I think I lost the other page. There's a shit ton of them, okay? So, I've had a good chunk of them. I can't say I've had them all, but I've had plenty of them. The only one that's not going to be on this list that I feel like I wish I have tried, but I haven't, well, two of them now. The Maven and the Skynet. Don't have them, never tried them, never tried any version of it. So, can't say anything about those two in my ranking. So the point in mentioning any of that was basically, you know, just to put it out there that I've tried a lot of these things to give my ranking some kind of, you know, it's grounded in something that, you know, these are definitely not the undisputed best things, and some of them are better at different things. They all have their purpose, you know. Some of them can wick faster than others. Some the flavor comes across better. Some have better draw, you know. And then that's all relative to, is it good for direct lung? Is it good for restricted direct lung? Is it good for mouth to lung? So there's a huge gamut of, you know, different criteria for ranking these things. So it's not an end-all be-all list, it's just something I came up with. And what I'm probably going to end up telling you is going to be slightly different from what I actually wrote down initially. So, you know, a number of these could vary, but I'm going to try to stick pretty much by the ranking, and I'll do just the top, what I feel are the top 10, and I'll give, you know, brief indication why I put it at that spot within the list.
You're watching Tone.